Hi, everyone. Pastor Galen, lead pastor at Shine Hills Church. Thank you so much for joining us on this podcast. We hope that these podcasts will be a real encouragement to you on your spiritual journey. You can also connect with Shine Hills at shinehills.org. Hope you enjoy the program.
We are across the street and around the world, Cheyenne Hills.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Genesis. We are still in Genesis chapter 17, but first, last time we talked, Julie, we talked about Abram changing his name to Abraham.
Mm-hmm.
God changed it. And basically, Abram means exalted father, right? And Abraham is the father of many, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was a prophetic thing, just a way of God reminding him, hey, just want you to know, you're going to be the father of many.
Mm-hmm. Quick question for you.
Yes.
How many times have you sung Father Abraham in your head?
Oh, during this time? Well, once now, just as you brought that up.
Okay.
Father Abraham had many sons?
Many sons, yep.
Oh, that's funny. That's good. I actually didn't know you were old enough to actually sing that song.
Goodness, yes.
Yeah. They had that in your VBS too.
Yeah, and actually in student council camp, we did that
Is
song.
that right?
Yeah, it was, and knees together, left arm, all that. Yeah.
Oh, that's...
Done it all.
I'm not sure if I remember. You're going to have to give me the Burns version of that sometime.
Yeah, it's actually the Wyoming High School Student Council Association. I'll do it post-show.
Post-show, okay, well.
Yes.
We'll see if we could actually let everybody in on this one. Well, then, so today we're going to talk about Sarai. Her name is spelled Sarai, Sarai.
Mm-hmm.
And her name is going to be changed to Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a minor change that you looked up. We'll take a look at that in a second. But before we do this, I didn't say this last time. Ken is still out.
He is.
And still doing testing and still, I don't know, trying to get this master electrician tag, I guess.
Yeah, his test is actually today, and then they have a family wedding in Kansas, I believe, and so they're out for a chunk of time, and of course his wife Lisa retired from teaching, and so they've got a little bit of flexibility and freedom.
Good
so
for them.
yeah, but we miss Ken's wisdom. For
do. I love having him a part of this. This has been a really neat. He was a pastor in Kansas.
Oh yeah.
He went same seminary as I did, Dallas Seminary. He graduated a few years before I did. And then, actually, this is a funny story. We should talk about this sometime. But when they came to town in Cheyenne, that's been in 1997, because that's when we sold our house. They bought our house on Powder House.
No kidding.
Yeah, the one right across from the mall. They bought that house.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
I had no idea that was, and then later they became a part of our church, and they said, hey, we know you from years ago. And so that was a connection that we had with the Wills.
That's so funny. So your paths didn't really cross. They didn't cross in Kansas, obviously.
No,
they crossed here in Cheyenne.
But it's interesting. I know that the little town of Bazine, where he was a pastor, I know right where that's at. And so
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. It's not too far from my hometown, actually. Probably 40 miles or so.
Oh, wow. So
like
really close
Pretty
then.
Close.
Really? Yeah. Did you play them in sports? Sorry.
Not Bazine. That was a
They're too small.
Pretty tiny town. But I certainly know where it's at.
Cool.
All right. So here we are. Genesis chapter 17, verse 15. And God said to Abraham. So now he's changed his name. He's actually changed it already here. Said to Abraham, as for Sarai, your wife, you shall not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall be her name. I will bless her, and moreover, I will give you a son by her. I will bless her, and she shall become nations. Kings of peoples shall come from her. Then Abraham fell on his face and he laughed, and he said to himself, shall a child be born to a man who is 100 years old? Shall Sarah, who is 90 years old, bear a child? For Abraham said to God, oh, that Ishmael might live before you, God. And God said, no, but Sarah, your wife, shall bear a son. And you shall call his name Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him and an everlasting covenant for his offspring after him. As for Ishmael, I have heard you. Behold, I have blessed him, and I will make him fruitful and multiply him greatly. He shall be the father. He shall father 12 princes, and I will make him into a great nation. But I will establish my covenant with Isaac, whom Sarah shall bear to you at this time next year. And so this is another crazy passage. Now he's 100. So apparently his name changed. So between these two paragraphs, he was 99 years old. And then is this a year later or a day later? I'm not sure, but it's later. And now he's 100 years old. And God says, no, Sarah will bear a son. His name's going to be Isaac. And Abraham laughed. And so give us I don't know. I'm going to let's go back to talk about laughing. God says something's going to happen. See if that's ever happened in your life. But let's go to Sarah. Sarai with an I means?
Sarai with an I means princess.
Right.
And while Sarah, so there's really not a lot of differentiation here. Sarah means my princess. And so what the definition here says is it has a queenlier or more exalted meaning to denote her upcoming stature among the promised people.
Right. So that little bit of a change and nuance in that change, apparently in the Hebrew language, would have indicated to Abraham now, the father of many. He's basically changing their name before he changes their title. They didn't become parents yet, but he'd already changed their name. I think that's kind of an interesting thing. He said, Abram, you're going to be Abraham, father of many. Sarai, princess, you're going to be his queen, Sarah, And so it's like, yeah, right. And he laughs about it.
Well, and doesn't it say too, he fell on his face and laughed. And so I just have this picture of him just kind of, I don't know, balled up on the ground, just laughing like that is the most ridiculous thing.
I know.
This is one of those things that I just would like to know someday when I get to heaven, because, when a little bit ahead here, Sarah laughs as well.
Yeah.
But, we've talked about the consequence of questioning God and the heart behind questioning God, and whether or not it's for clarification, or if it's like, I don't know that I really believe you.
Right.
And here's a situation where Abraham certainly is like, this seems ridiculous. This is improbable. I'm 100 years old and Sarah's 90 or 90.
How is this
going to happen? And yet God seems to overlook that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the only thing that comes to my mind, I was trying to make some kind of application here, but when Jesus says, I'm coming soon, right? We've been waiting a long time, and it's like people are starting to say, I don't see this happening. I think you guys are crazy. In fact, there's a lot of people that don't believe in the return of Christ. It's a major doctrine of our faith that the imminent return of Christ. Christ could come any day, and we are to live our lives as if he could come this afternoon. He could be here, and we're going to meet the Lord in the air, and to live our life with that expectation. Well, sometimes you kind of get, life happens and you're just like, I don't see that happening. Here's a similar kind of situation. It's like, Lord, you've told us for a lot of years that we're going to have children. And I'll just tell you, the sand has run out of the through the time capsule, or what are those called? What are those things called?
The hourglass.
Hourglass. Thank you. It's past our time to have children. And so he's laughing about it.
Well, and he even says, because, what Ishmael, I mean, really it's Ishmael. Of course, it's got to be Ishmael, because that's,
he's my seed. And so it's got to be him.
Yeah. And God says no, and his name is going to be Isaac, and I'll take care of Ishmael, but this is where your promise is going to be fulfilled. Yeah.
It's an amazing story. And, Abraham, and then Isaac, and then Jacob, and those are the big patriarchs of the faith, of the Jewish faith. And we are grafted in, if you will, and claim that lineage and that promise. And so it's an amazing picture. It's a family that God puts together. But even Ishmael, because he's a part of the lineage of Abraham, Ishmael is going to be blessed, and he will be the father of 12 princes, right? And so it doesn't say kings. That was interesting to me, because he's the father of the basically the Arab nation, the kingdoms, I think, and so and they have certainly been blessed. There's no question. You go over in that desert, boy, they've pulled a lot of oil out of that ground, and they are definitely a blessed, prosperous. Many of those places are, not all of them, but many of them are. And God has been they're a force to be reckoned with. But so is Israel.
Yeah, it is interesting to think about with princes, and I guess I don't know my history well enough to dig into that. But of course, through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is the 12 tribes of Egypt.
Right.
What the princes is that? Do you know?
I really don't know.
Lines up with?
It'd be interesting just to line up the kingdoms of the day today. You got the kingdom of Persia and Iraq and Saudi Arabia, and there's a lot of kingdoms over there. But I don't. In fact, when I read that today, I just thought, wow, I wonder. I'd like to dig into that some more to figure out what the princes, if there is any, but I do like the parallel of there's the 12 tribes. It comes from Abraham, Isaac, Jacob's 12 sons, right? And then it's just interesting. But God has blessed both Jews and Arabs, and it's their cousins. They claim Abraham as their father. Both groups of people do, and yet as we look in the news today, terrible fighting and bloodshed over that little tract of land in between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean, and it's unbelievable to me. It's unbelievable. It's miraculous. When he says, "I'm going to make an everlasting covenant with you," I don't know how anybody can look at Israel and see it blooming and flourishing and prosperous and protecting itself against all of the Arab nations that want to. Many of whom would like to get rid of Israel, and it's still there, and it's still defending itself. And I just think if you can't see the hand of God in that, I do. I just think, wow, I think it's one of the great miracles of our day. If you just go look at it. There's no other way to explain it to me. But anyway, so we saw Abram go to Abraham. We saw Sarai changed her name to Sarah. So we're setting our it's being set up for a new baby to enter into the world, and so we're going to probably see that in the next chapters to come. Any final thoughts you have?
Well, I just love, and we've talked about this before, but just how God builds and makes his promises through imperfect people all of the time. And the fact that Abram and Abraham continually there's evidence of sin, or whether
unbelief.
Or not it was labor or unbelief
for sure.
Taking matters into your own hands.
Well, that's true. Sin there, as far as taking this as Sarai's handmaiden and to have a child with, that's for sure. And that God uses all that mess.
Yeah, it's just a beautiful picture, and of course, then as you go forward with Isaac and Jacob, and then even continuing on, it just is a beautiful thing, and it's such a great reminder that even, our desire is to be sinless, to live a sinless life, but how difficult that is, and God still uses us.
He still uses us in spite of that. That's
so
good.
Thankful for the cross.
Amen. That's good. Thanks. Good comments. Well, thanks for joining us, and hopefully we'll have another person joining us next time. Ken will be back, I hope, and hopefully you've enjoyed our journey through Genesis. God bless you guys.